So one of the key concepts in Algebra 2 is solving quadratics, which you can always use the quadratic formula. So if you have an equation that looks like this, then with your A, B, and C identified, you can plug it into this formula, and that will find the 2, 1, or imaginary solutions. So for this one, we've identified our A, B's, and C's, and we just plug them into that formula, putting them in the right spots. Now we just simplify, so negative 10 is a positive 10. Simplify under the radical, and that gives us that. Radical 144 is 12. Now that plus minus really means that there's two answers. So we do 10 plus 12 over 2, and then 10 minus 12 over 2. And those simplify to 11 and negative 1. So 11 and negative 1 are the two answers that solve this equation. If you plug them in for x, that would give you 0. So for this one, we got to get everything over to one side first. So we subtracted that over. Then we identify our A, B's, and C's. Then we plug them into the formula. Now we got to simplify into the radical. Now that simplifies to just a 0. So negative 8 plus or minus 0 is just negative 8. So there's only one answer here. This is one of those instances where the quadratic just touches the axis barely. So that's our only answer. Here, we set this one up, identify our A, B's, and C's, plug it into the formula, simplify, and under the radical is root 92. So we've got to simplify that radical, but we're going to have a square root in our answer. So that simplifies to 2 root 23. Now all these terms are divisible by 2, so what that means is you can simplify this even further. So we just leave our answer like that. It really means negative 3 plus root 23 divided by 2, and negative 3 minus root 23 divided by 2. So in this one here, we're going to add that 10 over to the other side, identify our A, B's, and C's, plug it into the formula, and now we solve it. And when we simplify the radical, there's a negative under the radical, so that means it's an imaginary root. What that means is it's one of those graphs that never hits the x-axis, so the x-intercept has no geometric meaning. So we simplify the radical by pulling our i's out, and that gives us that, and then root 4 is equal to 2, so we write 6 plus or minus 2i. All are divisible by 2, so we reduce those all. And remember, that really means there's two answers. It's 3 plus I and 3 minus I. Alright, and this last slide just talks about the discriminant. That's just the piece circled right there underneath the radical. That's just a quick indicator. If you just look at that real quickly, I'll tell you whether there's 2 rational roots, 2 irrational roots, means they still have a square root, only 1 root when it equals 0, or 2 complex roots, because if it's negative, then you're taking the square root of a negative. Alright, you try those and have a great time.